עליתי לישראל היום.
אהה,
עלית במשקל. ירדת?
72.6.
יופי.
חצי קילו. זה עדיין חצי קילו יותר.
אני עליתי 300 גרם.
הייתי רוצה שתצלמי את העיניים שלי, ותבקשי מהם גלוקוז.
זה ביקשתי.
זה כבר ביקשת.
כן.
אוקיי. אז תצלמי את העיניים, תראי זה. ואת צריכה לכתוב להם מה שהם נתנו לי.
למי לכתוב?
האחיות, נתנו לי רפואה נגד
אלרגיה.
כן.
הם יודעים מה הם נתנו.
אוקיי. הוא שם לי את הטיפות היום.
I'm taking a shower.
Uh-huh. Eh.
Morning, Moshe.
Morning to you.
Yeah, another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Hey, it's hot out here. I imagine it's hot in Jerusalem too. Oh, morning, Kavod Rav.
Morning.
Yeah.
You had a nice vacation?
Yeah, I was away for a few days.
Good. That's great.
More of a workshop than anything else, but
Okay. Gamzu the type. All right. I will turn myself off and mute myself. I see there's still another minute to go.
No, yeah.
They like to rush in at the end.
Are you coming this evening?
Say it again.
What's that? I asked
I said people like to rush in at
if
the
you're
end.
joining us this evening.
No. Tonight's the big 90th party. Yeah. I don't suppose it'll be on Zoom. No. Is it being broadcast on Zoom?
And you're just breaking up. I mean, what did you say?
I was asking if it was being broadcast on Zoom.
Yeah,
Forget
I don't know if it's my internet or
it. It could be mine. It could be mine. No.
No.
Okay. He disappeared. There you go.
Please bear with us as we experience technical difficulties. Jonathan, what were you asking?
I was asking if tonight's program would be broadcast on Zoom.
No. As far as I'm aware, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
The food is certainly not being broadcast. I can tell you.
Food. Why is every Jewish event got to have food? My gosh. No, that's a huge mazal tov to the rabbi.
Okay, that's a teacher of that, they say. Okay. So normally I would stop the recording and start again, but I'm actually not on my computer this morning. I'm on a different computer, so I'm not able to do that. I know a few people are away. Hopefully they'll catch up. We'll try and clean up the recording afterwards, the first 3 minutes or so. They don't have to listen to our chit chat. Okay, but let's begin. So last week there was no shiur because I was away, as you both know. Let's begin where we left off. So we're now in the second parak of Masechet Beitzah. We're in Daf Tetvav Amud Bet. And we started talking about the idea of Eruv Tavshilin. And through that, the Gemara goes on a little bit of a tangent. There's a story about Rabbi Eliezer and how he would conduct himself on Yom Tov, talking about the idea that the drasha would go on the whole day. And Rav found that today he would be out of a job very, very soon. But that's how it was in Rabbi Eliezer's day. And he gives rebuke to those that are going out. And he says, why are you leaving? You just want to eat. As we asked before, why is everything going to a food, right? What about food for the neshama? So he says Rabbi Eliezer. So we are probably the bottom third of the page. Like I said, Daf Tetvav Amud Bet. Let's pick it up where it says, the bride says the Tanya. Right, so it's about a third of the way from the end. It says the Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Eno l'adam b'yom tov, ela ochel v'shoteh o yoshev v'shoneh. Right, so Rabbi Eliezer says on Yom Tov. Good morning to those who just joined us. So we're on Daf Tetvav Amud Bet. We are on the bottom third of the page. Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Eno l'adam b'yom tov, ela ochel v'shoteh o yoshev v'shoneh. Rabbi Eliezer says, what is Yom Tov? What does a person do? Eat and drink, or you sit and learn. But you have to do it properly. Right? Whatever you do, you have to engage in that. You have to do it properly the whole day. It's or kol lachem or kol Hashem. If I could just ask everybody to mute themselves so we don't get the echo. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, chalkeu chetzio l'Hashem v'chetzio lachem. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, you can split it up. You can go half and half. Right? We can achieve everything. We can have chetzio lachem, chetzio l'Hashem. Amar Rabbi Yochanan u'shneim mikra echad dashu. Says Rabbi Yochanan, both of them actually learned it from the same pasuk. Katuv echad omer atzeret l'Hashem elokecha. וכתוב אחד אומר עצרת תהיה לכם. In one place it says, they both learned it in fact from the same two psukim. In one place it says עצרת for Hashem, another place it says עצרת for לכם. So how can that be? הכיצד? Rabbi Eliezer סבר או כולו להשם או כולו לכם. Rabbi Eliezer says, how do we resolve the contradiction? It's either or, either כולו להשם או כולו לכם. Rabbi Yeshua סבר חוקר וחציו להשם וחציו לכם. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, it's both. You split it up, you do half and half. I think we mentioned that there are certain exceptions to that. The way that we paskin, and we'll see, but later in Shulchan Aruch, the way that we paskin is like Rabbi Yeshua, Chetzio lachem, Chetzio lachem. Even Rabbi Eliezer agrees, however, certain times, like on Shavuot, that Ba'ina Nami lachem, that one has to incorporate that element of our own enjoyment as well. That is Shavuot, the day when we receive the Torah. But that is Machlok Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer. Now, says the Gemara, Ma'ila ein nachon lo. Okay, earlier on we quoted this pasuk. We quoted this Rabbi Eliezer. In fact, quoted this pasuk from Sefer Nehemiah. If you look a few lines up in the Gemara, you'll see it. It says, "Lechu ichlu." When Nehemiah says to the people, "Lechu ichlu mashmanim ushtu mamtakim." Go and eat and drink. V'shachum. All the people were crying. This was on Rosh Hashanah when they came back from the Galut, and they read the Sefer Torah. And they learned, they realized all these things they'd forgotten, all these things they were not keeping. They began to cry. And this is on Rosh Hashanah, and he says to them, no, that is incorrect. And send portions to those who don't have ready. So what does it mean? Now the Gemara asks, what is a shalchu manot la'ein nachon lo? What is this referring to? Does my la'ein nachon lo? What do you mean somebody doesn't have ready? So two answers. Amar Rav Chizda, lemi shelo aniach harvei tavshilin. Says Rav Chisda, somebody who didn't make an Eruv Tavshilin. If you didn't make an Eruv Tavshilin, then you can't prepare food. You won't have food for Shabbat. So send food for Shabbat on Yom Tov to the people who have not made Eruv Tavshilin. That's the first version. Ikadam, those who say slightly differently, not Misha lo hiniach Eruv Tavshilin, and what? Misha lo hayalo laniach Eruv Tavshilin. Misha lo hayalo, meaning somebody who was not able to. The implicit word here is Misha lo hayalo pnai. Somebody who did not have time, lehaniach eruv tavshilin. Why would you not have had time? Says Rashi, shelo yalo lehaniach, on the second one line in Rashi. Kegon shavdalo avedam, erev Yom Tov. He lost an item on erev Yom Tov, and he's spending the whole day trying to find his avedah, and therefore he ran out of time. He didn't have time to prepare his eruv tavshilin. He didn't read all the WhatsApp reminders going around saying eruv tavshilin, right? So therefore, he wasn't able to. Either was some sort of an honest, and in that case, so we should provide for the person who, for circumstances beyond their control, was not able to aniach eruv tavshilin. Or misha yalo aniach eruv tavshilin, but somebody who had time, velo aniach, but he just didn't do it because he said, "I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later," and before you know it, you run out of time, but you could have done it. So posheyahu. So that person is considered a posheya. Okay, we'll see later on, this idea comes up as well, a little bit later in the parak. I think I mentioned it last time. The fact that the minhag is that the Rav of the city, or the Rav of the Keilah, when he makes his Eruv Tavshilin, he does a kinyan on that, and he makes Eruv Tavshilin with everybody in mind. So if there's somebody who did not make an Eruv Tavshilin for themselves, they can rely on the Eruv of the Rav. However, it's only in a case where somebody forgot, or somebody was unable to. But if a person was able to, and they just decided, oh, I'm not going to make an Eruv Tavshilin, I'm going to rely on the Eruv of the Rav. No, that's a posher. You can't do that. That's not allowed. Okay, so back in the Gemara. We are now 6 lines from the bottom of the page. Continuation of the pasuk. It says, Chedvat Hashem hi ma'uzchem, the joy of Hashem, that is your fortress. What does that mean? So, Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Eliezer bar Rabbi Shimon, Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'Yisrael, Banai levu alai. That is the words, one of the Zmirot that we sing on Shabbat, levu alai Banai. It comes from here. Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'Yisrael. Hashem says to the Jewish people as follows: Banai, my children, levu alai, you can learn from me, so to speak, v'kitshu kedushat hayom, in order to sanctify the day, i.e., the person does not have doesn't have funds in order to have a Shabbat meal and Yom Tov meal, etc. It says you can learn it from Hashem, as it were. Levu alai v'kitshu kedushat hayom v'aminu bi v'ani poreah, and you can rely on me that I'm going to pay you back. Okay, this obviously doesn't mean that a person can go in a well beyond their means and can we'll see some words in the Mishnah Berurah soon. But it doesn't mean a person can go well beyond their means and spend whatever they want, hundreds of thousands of shekels on the food and say, Hashem's going to pay me back. No. But it means if a person doesn't have, a person is very, very poor, doesn't have anything, but as Hashem says, okay, for Shabbat and Yom Tov, you can loan it from me, so to speak, and I will pay you back in order to honor the Shabbat, at least in a minimal way. So Chedvat Hashem, have a look at Rashi. Rashi says here, Chedvat Hashem, he says, Simcha she'atem osim b'shvil HaKadosh Baruch Hu aleim alschem. This is how it works in the pasuk. When the pasuk says Chedvat Hashem, the joy, meaning the simcha that you do for Hashem, that is like your ma'oz, that is your fortress. Hitazol etchem l'shalem hakafotechem. That will allow you to repay your loans. U'menavotechem shetalvu b'shvilah. That which you loan, so to speak, from me for it. Now the Gemara goes on a little bit of a discussion about monetary matters, economic matters, etc. So Rabbi Yochanan Mishom Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Person who wants their possessions to be either want things to be stolen in their field, etc. Yit'u an eder. You should plant this tree that is called an eder. Says Rashi. You don't want other people to come and steal from your field. Yitaba an eder. Ilan chashuv. It's an important tree. Yesh lo shem lemerachok. It's a tree. Everybody sees the tree and everybody knows. Right? It's quite a distinctive tree, and therefore, when people see it in the field, they'll know that this is your field. Yesh lo shem lemerachok. V'omrim ploni yesh lo eder b'sadeo. So and so has got this tree in his field. Mitoch kach hinikayt al shmo, and therefore it becomes known as his field. Im olech lemdinat hayam. And if you go away, right, uba acher v'chzik ba, Bava Batra discusses all of this chazakot, etc. Right, if you have a field, you have a dispute of ownership, we don't know who the field belongs to. So we look, does one have a chazaka that it says or not? But so let's say you go away. Right, this is in the days before digital instant communication. You go away, and somebody else came along and took over the field and said, it's my field. Right, v'chzik ba. No, you have many witnesses that it's yours because you've got this tree and everybody knows that this tree, but the field belongs to you. If you had sold the field, everybody would have known. They would have said, everybody always knows everybody's business. They would have said, so and so sold his field to, it would have been in the headlines. So and so the field has been sold for $23 billion. What was it? You may have seen there was an Israeli company now, Wiz, cybersecurity company. I think it was billions of dollars was sold to Google. Okay, everybody knows, everybody hears that their transaction has taken place. So therefore, you plant this tree in your field, and it has a distinctive name and distinctive appearance, and everybody knows that it's your field, and that will protect your possessions from being stolen. Right? Shneimar, says the Gemara now, third last line. Adir b'marom Hashem. Inami Adra Kishmei. Alternatively, Adra, that's the name of it. Either it's from the pasuk of Adir b'marom Hashem, or that's the name of the tree in Aramaic. Kidamriin Shimai Adra Dekaim aladare dare. Meaning, what is an Adra? Why is it called that? Because it stays from generation to generation. It's this larger tree that's going to be there. Okay, says the Gemara now, Braita, Samra, Diatani Namiachi, Sadeh, Shesh ba Eder, and Exelet, and Exemet. A field that has this tree, this Eder inside, is not going to be stolen. Not only that, but Perotea Mishtamrin, its fruits are going to be kept. Its fruits are going to be preserved. They're not going to, it's not going to be a problem. Says Rashi, what do we mean, Perotea Mishtamrin? It says, Lo yadanamai, I'm not really sure. It's not clear what the meaning is of these two words. Yesh mefalshim. There are those who explain as follows: Shenotinoto ala gvulim. This tree is planted on the border, right on the perimeter of the field. V'yesh lo anafim abed, has many branches. And because of all of its branches, it basically acts like a fence of the to the field. That is one interpretation that Rashi heard, but he holds by a different interpretation. He says, "V'linire shumin esef chashuv V'zar'o, he says, I think no, that it's a type of plant, important plant, v'zar'o mit'arevim perot, and its seeds, right, will mix in with the fruit. This is talking about a field. We're finding Chazal different types of field. The Stel Avan is a field that has plants, vegetation, not so much trees, not a stela. We're saying that the fruits are going to be saved from pests, parasites, etc. The smell of the seed of this plant will cause them to go away. Vilgan kills them. Okay, as we see in Masechet Shabbat. So that's so that is that regarding the Eder. Back in the Gemara now, the last line of the page says Tani Rav Tachlifa Achua Deravinai Chozaa. Right, Rav Tachlifa was the brother of Rav Nai from Chozaa. That's the name of the place. Now we're on Daf Tetzayin Amud Aleph at the top, and this is the Maimar. It says Kol mezonotav shel Adam ktuvin lo מראש השנה ועד יום הכיפורים, חוץ מהוצאת שבתות והוצאת יום טוב והוצאת בניו לתלמוד תורה. Okay, so this is an interesting, probably fair to say, this is a more or less well-known Gemara. The line is, in fact, there's a different Gersa. You'll see the Gersa of the Bach is not Rosh Hashanah ad Yom Kippurim, but it's Rosh Hashanah ad Rosh Hashanah. That is the more famous version. It says, Kol mezonotav shel Adam, all of a person's food. In other words, all of a person's sustenance, or how much money a person is going to have for the year. But Kol mezonotav shel Adam, all of a person's income, ktuvim lo, it is fixed. Rosh Hashanahvad Yom Kippurim. It's fixed between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So according to this Gersa, the way we would explain, we're talking about for the year ahead. So according to the Gersa we have in the Gemara would mean all of a person's funds are fixed from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, i.e., in the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that is the time when it's decided how much money you have for the entire year. The Gersa which the Bach prefers, which is probably well known, is Kol mezonotav shel Adam ktuvin lo meRosh Hashanah v'ad Rosh Hashanah, from one Rosh Hashanah to the next. In Rosh Hashanah it's decided how much money you have from that year until the following Rosh Hashanah. But like I said, the Gersa of our Mishnah of our Gemara is that it goes from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. In those 10 days it's judged. By the way, I think we've spoken about it in the past. It's fascinating. But in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah, so it talks about when the second Mishnah of the Masechet talks about when the world is judged. So it mentions there the fact that the person is judged on Rosh Hashanah and the Gzar Din is sealed on Yom Kippur. Okay, we all know, because we all remember from school, from kindergarten maybe, that on Rosh Hashanah the Tzadikim Gmurim are judged, right? And the Shaim Gmurim and the Beinonim are Tluyim from them from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. Right? It's only this group of people, these Beinonim, I think last year we spoke about it, who are hanging in the balance for these 10 days. But from the Mishnah, it doesn't seem to make that distinction. The Gemara, you can see it over there, but the Mishnah seems to imply that everybody, the judgment goes from Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur. And the Vilna Gaon said that there is a certain judgment that takes place that for everybody is really hanging in the balance between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. In any event, throughout the 10 days, I said to make tshuva, we all look at ourselves as Beinonim because we may as well. Because if chas v'chalel, if we're not in that category, there's nothing we can do. But if we are in that category, so then, well, unless we're tzaddikim gemurim, and then that's a good category to be in. But if you're a tzaddik gamur, you probably think that you're a Beinoni, and therefore, for those 10 days, that's the way that we treat it, as if everything is hanging in the balance. Because what else should we do? But there is a certain aspect. There may be on Rosh Hashanah, there is a more general sort of judgment which takes place, and that specific judgment is really only sealed by Yom Kippur, and therefore that would fall in line with our Mishnah, with our Gemara here. That this gives us suggesting that mezonotav ktuvim Rosh Hashanah ad Yom Kippurim. Okay, in other words, but all the money is allocated at this time, chutz me, with certain exceptions. Hotzaat Shabbatot v'hotzot Yamim Tovim. Right, that's why we're bringing it. Yeah, the money that a person spends on Shabbat and on Yom Tov, so that is not included in this count. That you have extra. Also, Hotzat Banav v'Talmud Torah, the money that you spend on your children's education. This is good news because tuition fees can be very expensive. But so that money is not included in that count. So first of all, Rashi says, "Chutz matzot Shabbatot." That was not decided, right, how much money you're going to have for that. In other words, the amount that a person is accustomed to spending on Shabbat and Yom Tov, so that amount is that extra you're going to get. That's going to be sort of like a bonus. Right, and then the writer continues. So if you spend less on these things, well, you'll have less money. If you spend more, you'll get more. One interesting question, which the Rishonim discuss, is when it says except with these exceptions, does it mean specifically these three things, or does it mean any mitzvot from the Ritzvah and others? It's implied that it means that any money that you spend on mitzvah needs is not included, and you'll get extra for that. However, Tosfot over here, Tosfot learns it from different psukim. It seems to imply that it's only these things specifically. Now, an important point which just has to be said over here. It doesn't mean, as we said before, we learned to Levu Alai Banai. Doesn't mean a person can spend beyond their means. Doesn't mean a person can spend beyond reason. It means that Shabbat and Hotzat Yom Tov and Hotzat Chinuch. Right, so a person can spend a little bit extra. A person doesn't have to think, doesn't have to cut down on that and not think, oh, yeah, I'm not going to have any money. I can't afford that. No, one can afford, but within one's means. If one thinks that's unlimited, the mezonotav shel adam ktuvin lo merosh hana ve'el yom kippurim, right? How much money is going to come in? So a person might think, well, I can just spend whatever I want on whenever I want because it's all been predetermined how much money I'm going to have. No, it's going to be predetermined how much is coming in, not predetermined how much is going out, and therefore you can spend too much. Let me read you something. I would share the screen, but as I say, I'm not on my own computer today, so I don't have the capabilities to do that today, so bear with me with some more Torah Shabbat Peh. But this is the Shulchan Aruch. It's fascinating. Shulchan Aruch says at the end of Echot Yom Tov, Siman Taf Kuf Kaftet. If you have it in front of you, if you have a Mishnah Berurah, easy access, you can open up. But there's a Siman about Simchat Yom Tov. So the Shulchan Aruch says the following. I'll read it to you. In Siman Tav Kuf Kaftet, he says, Mitzvat Yom Tov lechalko, chetzio leveit midrash, vechetzio la'achila v'shtia. Right, so the first thing is, like Rabbi Yehoshua, when it comes to Yom Tov, the mitzvah is to divide it in half. You should spend chetzio la'Hashem, vechetzio la'Chem. Half of Yom Tov, you should be in the Beit Midrash. Okay. And half of it, you should be eating and drinking, having your meals, etc. Rabbi Eliezer Melamed of Habracha, the author of Pnei Halacha, so he does a whole cheshbon, his whole calculation in terms of how many hours Yom Tov, and how many hours sleeping, how many hours this, and he works out that you should spend, 4 or 5 hours, whatever it is, in the Beit Midrash, and he has established in his yeshuv that everybody comes and spends these hours every Yom Tov. The Beit Midrash is full. People come in order to fulfill this chetzio la'Hashem. Maybe we'll introduce it in Beit Knesset Nasi and see how many people show up. Okay, but that is so that is the first part. And then he says, a person should not be stingy with their expenses of Yom Tov, right? Don't minimize it. You go to the shuk and you see how much stuff costs, and you say, Shulchan, Mishnah Berurah actually does write. I think we've discussed this in the past, that if what's that? Loading a whiteboard. Okay. In any event, but that if I'm not sure if we saw it in this year or in a different format, but he writes that if let's say all the fishmongers in the shuk decide that they're going to raise the price, they have a cartel and they're going to raise the prices of fish because everybody needs to buy their fish for Shabbos, so then dafka you shouldn't buy it, right? We're not it's not a license to people to come and exploit. But in any event, it says the Shulchan Aruch, Al yitzamtzem botzot Yom Tov. Don't minimize it. V'tzarech lachadol longo k'mo Shabbat. You need to honor and onik Shabbat, kavod Shabbat. You need to do that on Yom Tov the same as you would on Shabbat. Now, the Biur Halacha, which is written by the Chavetz Chaim, says the following: when it says Al yitzamtzem botzot Yom Tov, so he finds in those words, he says there's an implicit rebuke over here. When we say you should not minimize your expenses for Yom Tov, so or Miklal Lav Tashmayan. He says, Aval B'shar Yamim, on other days, which is not Yom Tov and Shabbat, Tzarich Kol Adam Letzamtzem Botzotav. He quotes that from the Torah. Says the Be'alacha, the Shulchan Aruch told you that on Yom Tov you don't need to be careful with your expenses, but on other days you do need to be careful with your expenses. He said, Makoron, what is the source of that? Mehad Big Mara from an Gemara, which says, Mezonotav Shel Adam Ktuvim Lo Mamush Shana V'chulei. Interesting there, the Be'alacha just says V'chulei, I guess because there are two different Gisaot, whether it's Rosh Hashanah ad Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim. But he says a person's has his fixed income established for him from Rosh Hashanah. Uperesh Rashi. Rashi explains, Lizaher milasot yetzia miruba shelo yosifu lo. I don't think we saw it. I don't know if we have that. Did we see that Rashi? Yeah. Have a look at Rashi. The first Rashi on the Amud. It says, Kol mezonotav shel adam. V'shel nadaf, I should say. Kol ma she'atid listaker b'shana she'nizon misham katzuv. Whatever, you're going to get a raise, you're going to get this, money coming in from Bituach Leumi, from whatever it is. That is all established. How much is coming in? Kach v'kach yishtaker b'shana zo. However much you're going to have in the year. V'yesh lo lizaher. But a person has to be careful. Milasot yetzia miruba, from spending too much. Shelo yosifu lo schar lemizonot. And amashi paskulo, they're not going to add in food for you from heaven, except for what has already been established for you. Like we said, with the exception of what's on Shabbat, Yom Tov, and Chinuch. So therefore, for all the other Hotzot, you have to be careful. Now listen to the Stochacha, listen to what the Bir Halacha says. After he quotes Rashi, he says, Zeu tochachat meruba al zmanein. Now, if the Mishnah Berurah is saying this 125 years ago, how much more so would it be correct today? He says, this is a explicit rebuke for our days. In our times, when people are so wasteful, and that's what they spend. He says, many people transgress this. People don't know how to measure their expenses in order to cut down on luxuries. This bad form of behavior, this has caused many people to suffer. It's caused many victims. In the end, person overspends, they're going to start taking loans, they're going to start stealing, they're going to start doing all sorts of terrible things. It can lead to embarrassment as well, disgrace. There are many reasons. Again, I'm reading here from the Bir Halacha, it's not in front of you, but he says there are many reasons which would cause this behavior. He says the greatest reason is that people should People don't think about what they're going to spend today, they're not going to have tomorrow. Says the Bir Halacha, praiseworthy, great is the person who is going to gird his loins. A person shouldn't give in to temptations, and a person should, you can't buy anything, right? But a person should put out their expenses according to their means, according to that which they own, and not more than that. So I remember the first time I saw this Bir Halacha, I was really blown away by it. Sometimes people think, oh well, everything's decided, it's a gezerah from heaven, right? I have to start budgeting, I have to start thinking about how much I spend, I have to start about that. What's that got to do with anything? What's that got to do with Torah? What's that got to do with religious life? Those are Bir Halacha, it's a Sefer Halacha. Because we have a religious obligation in terms of managing our expenses and managing our accounts and doing it in a way in terms of that which Hashem has given you. And that's all that is hiding behind this Gemara, which tells us it's your income which is fixed. It's not your expenses. That is within the realm of free choice. That is within the realm of your moral decisions. And of course, understand that certain needs for mitzvot, Shabbatot, Yamim Tovim, and Chinuch, these are exceptional things in which we're allowed to spend a little bit more. In order to honor Shabbat. Sometimes people spend money on all sorts of things, but when it comes to Tashmishei Kedusha, for example, it comes to religious things, they don't want to. People ask all the time, what tefillin should I buy? What mezuzot should I buy, etc. So people say, right, you go to Sofer Stam and you say, I want to buy a mezuzah. How much does it cost? Depends which one you want. You can have for 50 shekels, you can have for 100 shekels, you have for 200 shekels, you have 5, whatever it is. I'm just throwing out numbers, probably more than that. But so he said, I want a mezuzah that's kosher. So, okay, kosher, I'll give you the cheapest one. But you have kosher, you have mehudar, you have more mehudar, etc. Same thing for tefillin, same thing for any these things. So people come and say, why do I have to spend more money on expensive tefillin? Or why do I have to spend more money on a mezuzah? So the answer is, when you buy a car, do you buy a car that just drives? Or there's certain things that you want attached. You want the bells and whistles, and everybody knows. Or you buy a cell phone, you want just a cell phone that works, or you want certain features, you want it to be able to. If we're spending more when it comes to our own things, we're spending more money. So then when it comes to items of Kedusha, we should spend more money as well. Again, all within reason. I'm not saying you have to go and buy the most expensive mezuzah, the most expensive pair of tefillin. No, it's also not. We have to take on unnecessary chumrot, but those standards should apply for spiritual matters no less than they do for physical matters. Okay, Adkan, we're out of time, so that's it for today. We'll pick up from there tomorrow at the top of Tet Zayin Amud Aleph. Thank you everyone for coming. And a wonderful day.
As far as
tonight.
happens, what could be more expensive could be the leather. As far as the cloth, I can't imagine there's anything that you can improve upon. It's either kosher, it's not kosher in terms of the writing. Is
Yeah, look, there's a lot of things. There are different standards. There are different standards. There are different levels of kofrim. I mean, on the simplest level, time is money, right? The amount of time that a person puts in. So sometimes you have writing to better quality, to smaller quality. It's a very, very good software, and he spends a lot of time on it. So then the writing will be of a better quality than somebody who just goes and does it quickly, for example. Right? There's other things as well. Anyway, I can.
Rabbi Kenigsberg,
Yes, Jeffrey.
it doesn't mention tzedakah at all. It talks about things which you can spend more money on or not spend more money on and be refunded. It doesn't mention tzedakah at all.
You're right. So
So
Chazal talk about it in other places as well. They say ta'aser b'shvil shetit asher. In other words, there is a promise that if you give meiser accurately, and then you will you'll become rich from that. That is that is taught as well.
the other thing which I very strongly support is this concept that you can buy different levels of quality when it comes to fit in or it comes to a Sefer Torah.
Yes.
You've only got to look to see an expensive Sefer Torah and a cheaper Sefer Torah to see that the Kasav is quite different.
Yes, it can be. Again, I'm saying a person doesn't always have to spend the most expensive. My point is that if a person is willing to put in extra expenditure for luxuries, well, then a person should consider that when buying things which are spiritual needs as well.
I think that people should take very strong note of what the Mishnah Berurah says about the general expenditure.
Yes.
Especially the chinuch for the children. The most difficult thing today is to educate kids to be satisfied with the things they've got rather than look for something which they haven't got. It's a very big problem today. Very big problem. And it's shkach for the chair.
All right. Very good. I'll see you later. Thanks.
No, you won't see me today because I've got COVID.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, Refuah Shlema. It seems to be going around. All the Brits have got it, but Refuah Shlema.
But no, I don't feel bad with it. But I did a test, and I don't want to infect other people with it, especially the older members of the Kehillah. So I'm not going to come to the other one thing. Anyway, they should have a nice simcha. A very choshev man. A shkach for the shiur was very good.
All right, thank you.
Feel good. Well.